Here we go. Thanks, Penny, for jumping on this masterclass. And the reason that I have this masterclass here is I was just telling you I've put notes over here because it's after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And so this is one thing I've noticed in my mid 40s is
We're
by
in the
five
midlife
o'clock,
stage.
by 5 o'clock, I need notes.
I'm in
But the
the
reason
morning and I don't know if I've got the same excuse, but I think, we just got to be kind to ourselves.
100%. The reason for this whole masterclass series, it's twofold. And number one is that I think that the conversation online about perimenopause is getting really twisted. And that we've gone from, oh, hey, did you know that women go through this second puberty and it's called perimenopause? And it might be beneficial to women if they had the understanding that this is something that's going to happen to them. And HRT is potentially a lot safer than we maybe previously thought, and it may be of benefit to some women. It's kind of distorted into everything that's going on in your life right now is due to perimenopause. And if you're a woman and you choose not to take HRT, you're actually being negligent. And it's almost like a responsibility that you have to yourself to replace these lost hormones. And we're missing a whole lot of context and nuance in a topic that is highly dependent, inherently dependent on context and is very, very nuanced. And so I want to say here as well that a lot of people think that I'm anti HRT, and I'm actually not. At least half of my perimenopausal patients, maybe even more than half, are actually on HRT, but they've come to me because they went on it and they're still struggling. And they've been sold this idea by social media and Facebook groups that HRT was going to fix everything. I'm doing this a lot and I will, but that HRT was going to fix everything and it didn't. And now they don't know what else to do. And they're desperate. They feel broken. They feel alone. The sky did not get bluer after their first click of estrogen. And so this is why I wanted to start having some conversations with some context and a lot more nuance. And my point of view on women's health during the perimenopausal transition is that there's five main categories. We've got mindset, diet and digestion, stress management, lifestyle that I also call happy hormone habits because I like a bit of alliteration, and then supplements. And HRT falls into that category as well. And this masterclass series is going to address each of those categories. And the conversation with you, I'm actually putting in the stress management category because in my system, stress management covers nervous system support, breath work and body exercises, what I call handling capacity and overwhelm, relationships, and pleasure practices. And so I think you overlap with basically all of them because I think sexuality goes into the capacity bucket. So I'm going to throw over to you now to introduce yourself and also if you can, we talked before we hit record about just discussing the little trauma alert. So I'll throw over to you.
Thanks so much for having me. I would call myself, so my name's Penny Vandersloot. I would call myself a pleasure activist. I feel really passionate about this topic, and so really grateful to have this opportunity to bring some light and information and myth busting to it. I am a certified somatic sex coach. I am a breathwork practitioner or facilitator. I have a background in psychology and HR, and I've worked in the community sector. I feel really um, passionate also about women being in community, and I feel like I learn a lot of this stuff in my midlife. So I feel very qualified from a lot of like self-research and experience and our study that there's a lot of misinformation for us. And it's really, to begin with, it's no one's fault. It's really just, being compassionate with each other and understanding we're just learning and not much research has been done on our bodies and there's not much that's safe to talk about this topic. So we're kind of floundering around our own. And to talk to trauma, this is because we haven't had a safe place to talk about it, or it has had so much shame and embarrassment and taboo about it. It's been kind of stored away and hidden away. So sometimes this topic will inadvertently bring up feelings in your body. You might feel activated. I don't like the word triggered, but
Mm.
it's you will notice that maybe your heart starts to race, or you're noticing your body's shifting. You might even be aware of certain aspects of your sexuality and your sex life that has had some incidences associated with it. And, so for you to, in listening with us today, just to be really kind to yourself and notice if it's in any way uncomfortable, that you don't have to listen, to go and seek support. So you might already have a support team, but if you don't, this is a really good time to find someone that you feel safe to talk to, that you know can support you through whatever is coming up for you. And to be okay with that, this is sometimes the most, well, this is a bit of an awareness raising. Like if you're noticing something, this is a good time to maybe try and have a look at it.
Yeah. And
Don't
if you
hide it
have
away.
any like history of sexual trauma, I mean, that's arguable that many, 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 many people do,
Mm.
but certainly anything, big and obvious, that even just being in perimenopause can stir up a lot of past emotions and feelings, things that you might have thought that you had closed the lid on as well, because as these hormones provide a kind of a veil. They are physiologically sedating. And so as they lift, things that you might have thought, whoa, I thought I dealt with that. I thought I unpacked it. I thought I was over it. That might come back up. And so just to seek out the help of someone. And can someone contact you and have like do you have like a discovery call
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
thing?
absolutely. Have a
Okay.
conversation. In my somatic sex coaching, we didn't actually become sort of trauma isn't our specialty, and we
Mm.
would refer people on. But there's obviously an awareness of it, and we're informed. And then I've also done trauma informed breath work and somatic training. So there's definitely some tools that I have in my kit. But if it is a really big aspect of your life that you're now facing, definitely get someone who's got an expertise in that. As a sex coach, we really work with where you're at now and looking forward. And to unpack trauma, you often need to kind of look back and be more in therapy.
Okay, so that
Um,
would be like a psychologist or a psychotherapist or
Definitely,
okay.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it
So
can be sexologists as well. Like they can have done the training and stuff like that. Yeah, definitely.
okay. Yeah. So just to sort of say today's chat is going to be on sexuality, pleasure, and desire. And yeah, listen in. And if at any point you feel you need to click away, that's totally fine. And seek the help that you need
Yeah,
if you feel very activated, as you say. I
let's go.
want to kick off talking about this idea of libido in I'll say from sort of our 40s onward, because I think that's the midlife time, the transition, that sort of 5 to 10 years, depending on the individual, before we go through menopause, which is when your periods have stopped for a year and don't come back, but that time beforehand where things are shifting around. And one of the things that women seem to really struggle with is I'll say struggle, a loss of libido, and a loss of interest and desire for sex. I will say here as well that some people have the opposite and suddenly they really want more sex and they're more sexually alive. But I think I'm safe to say the majority probably feel as though they get a decrease in desire. And some of it is because of physical changes. So sex hurts basically and doesn't feel good anymore. And we'll talk about that a bit today. But also there's just that desire for sex goes away. I throw over to you now.
Oh my God, there's so much to speak to this. I feel like to start with, we need to say there's nothing wrong with you and you're not broken, and women's bodies change. So even you said earlier that, we went through puberty and some of us went through motherhood, and we can see our parents aging. Like our bodies change, and that is normal, and that has happened all along. But somehow, because we haven't been shown, role modeled, because our families and society didn't even acknowledge perimenopause. I don't even think I'd even known that word until I was in it. So it wasn't even a thing. So we're still kind of catching up with, well, what's normal and what's okay. And I think what we are hearing are all the alarming things that are happening. We hear all the things that are wrong with women's bodies, and there's a system behind it that's profiting from that. So there's a lot to be said for like business opportunities in making women feel bad about themselves, and aging is um, alarming. And
Yeah.
so, you know, from a long time ago, we've been worried about stuff. So our bodies change, and the way we desire and look for sex changes. We were sort of talking to, even just the idea that because we're going through this phase of our bodies, actually our fertility is no longer a priority. We're not trying to procreate anymore. So it kind of makes sense that our desire would change from an evolutionary perspective.
Well,
We
and
we don't
that's something that I put in the opportunity category, right? Because I feel like before, around the full moon, I would have to lock myself in a cupboard when I was younger because the first square-jawed man that walked past me, I just like
was
this
on.
sex werewolf, and I'd just make terrible decisions. But there is that, as you say, there is that drive for, we're a mammal. There's that drive for mammalian reproduction to the survival of the species.
Actually, yeah.
So once that goes away, sex actually just becomes purely about pleasure, eroticism, and enjoyment. And I think that's if it's something that's important to you. And that's what you were saying before about how it's okay if everything's okay. You are totally okay the way you are.
Yeah.
But for women who potentially have had, and that we'll talk that meta desire, that you used to enjoy sex was a big part of your life, you had a lot of spontaneous desire, meaning that it'd be a Thursday afternoon at 4 o'clock, and you would be like, well, can't wait to get home to see my significant other for some loving. And that's all just suddenly feels like it's
Shifted.
disappeared. Yeah, or shifted.
So
Yeah.
I think I would also go back to like a couple of things, like what we think of as sex. So a lot of the time, it's that kind of really fast-paced kind of penis and vagina sex, and that was kind of what maybe we were even interested in. And what we're shown is like healthy sex drive. You see it in movies. It's always quick and fast and up against the wall and ripping your clothes off and
Do
all this sort
not
of
get
thing.
me
So
started about
so
the
here's the thing, how we look at sex and what we then go, oh, well, I don't want that kind of sex anymore. Like that doesn't sound very interesting to me. Or is then we start to go, well, then there must be something wrong with my sex drive or my libido. I would actually argue it's always there, and it's just the type of interest and the type of activation that will bring it to the forefront. I think also in midlife, like let's be real, most women are dealing with a whole lot on their plates.
yeah.
So they're not only dealing with the physical changes in their body, but they might be managing a family, a household, a job, elderly parents, aging, health concerns, all this stuff is on your plate. And that pretty much is the break. So there's accelerators and brakes in what will have you ignite your desire and turn yourself on. And so if you've got a mental load and an emotional load that is overflowing, of course sex becomes the last thing on your mind.
Yeah.
So there's also just a bit of like, let's just check in. Women have been put in a position where their body hasn't been allowed to do what it normally does. So I would also say most women that I'm working with in their midlife and beyond have checked out of their body. They've stopped listening to their body. They don't actually know what their body is telling them. And again, no one's fault. This is just we've been made to survive and push through, and our pleasure hasn't been centered. Even just the idea that a man's pleasure is, more important, or that they've got higher sex drives than us. Like the messaging is everywhere.
Mm.
So I think when we understand that sex can be a whole range of different experiences. It doesn't even have to touch your genitals. You can have sexual experiences that's intimate and through touch and incredibly arousing, but you don't even have to touch your genitals. So there's a whole range of what we think of as sex, and then how we desire it as I think also just understanding that it will shift and change because of we're in a very masculine or yang world. Like there's lots of like do. There's lots of achievement is prioritized and focused on, and competition and getting to the end result and all those sorts of things. the feminine or the yin aspects of our body have been diminished, shut down, made to feel less than or unworthy, weak. So what I'm noticing in our midlife is they're out of balance. So when we can put those back into balance and give ourselves space and slow down and listen to our body's messages, which is often saying like, I'm uncomfortable, I don't like this, or all those sort of symptoms that we get told in midlife are the things are, it's our body's messaging telling us something like, hang on a minute, what's going on? Can you listen to me, please? And if we're masking them or ignoring them or outsourcing them and not tuning back in. So when we tune back in and focus on how can we increase, I would say our yin and feminine parts of ourselves. There's also kind of um, oh, the word's gone out of my head. Anyway, so basically pleasure. Let's look at pleasure. So I would also say sex is an energy, so a sexual drive, a sexual um, life force energy, and so much of this has been put on like it only looks a particular way. So that's kind of that limiting view of what sex is, but also just this idea that it's not important. We do it only after everything else has been met in our life. And then it's like, oh, okay, I've got a bit of time for this or whatever. I would actually say that our sexual health, our sexual awareness, our understanding of our body is one of our main priorities. It's good to see it's on one of yours. So if we're ignoring it and if we aren't understanding what we like, even most women have not even understanding of how their body works, what they enjoy, what they feel, what feels good in their body, haven't mapped out their own pleasure sort of
So when you say
on their
that, I
body.
want to just ask for some specifics on that. When you say what feels good in their body and their own pleasure, are you talking like from the moment you wake up in the morning? Like you like to wear
Potentially, yeah. So it's great to
cotton
talk about
versus
pleasure,
polyester, or are you talking
yes,
about responsive touch,
pleasure
or what's
sexually.
yeah.
Well, I think that's a great point. I think sometimes when I say pleasure, people automatically think it's only sexual pleasure. I would actually go broader and say it's anything that feels good in your body. And so most women struggle because they feel selfish or it's frivolous if they do something that feels good in their body. So, and I'm not just talking about like paint your nails and have your hair done. I'm
Mm,
talking about, like you said, when I get up, am I choosing the fabrics to put on my body, the products to put on my body that are nurturing and nourishing and good for me? Or am I doing it because someone else told me that that's what I should look like? Or, that it's pleasing someone else. So I think we've gone through, and you talked about the veil coming back. So the estrogen that we've had sort of driving our fertility drops, and it means that we're less people pleasing. We actually start to go, why am I doing these things? What's important to me? You start to become much more self-focused. And I think here's your chance when sex for a long time has been performative or it has been to please someone else. It's because of, again, like we haven't been shown, our sex education was handed over to reproductive kind of interest. So
mm,
really our sex educations come from a bit of self, experience, and you kind of go, oh, that worked or that didn't, and you kind of
mm,
work it out.
mm.
Maybe you've been lucky enough to have someone as a bit of a role model, but chances are even then it's sort of like, this is what men like, or this is what you should look, it should
And
look
it's so
like. So there's
individual. It's so
exactly,
individual
and there's
because I
and
talk
there's
to my
shame
husband all the
around like,
time about vulva diversity, and I'm like asking him questions, and he's like, do we really have to have this conversation? I'm like, but I want to know. Like, you've
yeah,
seen way more vulvas than I have. And yeah, he's like, yeah, every single one should come with its own like instruction manual because, and my girlfriend and I were out for dinner the other day and we were like, I think you can probably talk around this more than I can, but like I think dicks are a bit more straightforward, like even just if we're talking, you said it doesn't even have to be your genitals, but even a woman's genital variety is extraordinary. And there's Comfortable in Your Skin, that
yes,
account on Instagram that's fully devoted to teaching women that vulvas are so
well,
diverse.
here's the thing, hers has just been shut down again. So the challenge that we have is exactly that. Women have little information on what their body looks like compared to others, so that someone can early in their sex life with another partner say something about your body, like, why do you have it that way? And suddenly that shuts down
Yeah.
because they're not aware. Oh my God, there is this, we don't have websites, we don't have education. There are so many women, and I, really want to speak to this as you listening, that your body is perfect exactly the way it is, and it was designed for you to feel pleasure, and no one should be judging how it looks and how it works. And it's for, here's the thing, we weren't told early on, and I would encourage, as parents and as mentors to younger people, if you can, that it's for them to learn their pleasure places, like to understand. So self pleasure, masturbation, if you want to call it, or even just mapping out, exploring, touching, understanding what feels good, is, it's been shown to be one of the best ways to stop, women going into situations where they're overriding their body. So
Mm.
many women are overriding their body, going, this doesn't feel good, but I'll just get through it and I'll just dissociate. That's
Yeah.
where pain comes in. Your body at this stage of your life, and that's where a lot of discomfort could come, is because you've just ignored it. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
We've just pushed through. We've gone, okay, well, I should be doing that. I'm faking faking through it, whatever it might be. And now at this time of our life, we've got less kind of, we give less fucks, and we actually start to go, okay, now it's time for me to notice. And the sex that I've been having is ordinary. I
Yeah.
don't actually like it. So that would be the other thing. Most of the time, I would say people, it's not their sex drive's gone. It's just what they're doing is boring. They don't like it. It hasn't
So,
actually been
as you
that
know,
brings.
Esther Perel is one of my favorite humans, and she said there's this whole thing out there that women don't want sex. She goes, it's not the case in the women that I'm talking to. She goes, but here's the spoiler: for women to want sex, it has to be sex that's worth wanting.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's another one as well, is as you said, that if you've been able to, because the hormones during your reproductive years kind of they make it easy for you to have average sex, or do things that maybe you're not super into, or even if you've enjoyed sex with a partner, it might be, as you said, it's just not doing it for you anymore. Why is that? Maybe it's boring. Maybe you haven't slowed down and got back in touch with, okay, well, it used to feel good when we did this, that's no longer working. Let's go back to 101 and approach things from a pleasure perspective. And rather than racing to the end goal of an orgasm, let's just see what feels good. Do I want a kiss? Do I want a foot rub? Do I want a nipple massage? Do I want, like,
And
you're going to,
asking for it
pardon?
and being able to ask for it. So that's the other thing. I think women haven't been, we've been told they should know, like, if I've got a good lover, he will know how,
Mm.
or she will know how to pleasure me.
I
But
think
exactly
this
what you
is,
said, there's so
yeah,
much variety out there. How on earth are they going to know?
it's like
So
diffusing a
and
bomb.
but Esther Perel will say the same thing. Like, have you explained it? Have you asked? Have you communicated? They're some of her best clues to, like, in relationship. But I would even go back to say, sex with yourself is your number one priority. Your first relationship is with yourself. And even if you're in
How
a
do you
relationship,
define sex with yourself?
so that would be time with yourself, like having time to feel your body. It might be a breast massage. It might be, um, you know, putting beautiful moisturizer on your body after you have a shower, and then starting to go, oh, I'm actually feeling quite good. I might now touch my vulva. I might now, and letting yourself be guided by what feels good in your body. So that would be the messaging, I'd say, is like, any sort of sex coaching, usually you take sex off the table. Penis and vagina will come off the
Get the
table, and
dicks
you
out
go
of
back.
there.
Yeah, it's like that's an end goal, or even orgasms. Let's
Yeah.
get them off the table. There's the pressure and the performance and the, like, I've just got to get there. What we're forgetting is, like, where do we begin? And we begin with feeling into ourselves. Like, it might be just, a deep breath and a slowing down and going, what do I feel like right now? An answer might be, I just want to cuddle. I just want to lie side by side and breathe together. Or I'd
And
like to have,
I would even say this is, I think, what you were talking about when you said women in our age group don't even have that level of body awareness because we're constantly, and this, I feel that nervous system support is one of the huge missing pieces for women in midlife. And I think what's happened is women are entering perimenopause and their nervous systems are fried. And what
Yes.
happens is there's a change, and the system was already like on the fucking edge. And so this hormonal change, which is normal, natural, pre-programmed, women have been doing it for millennia, all women, not some women. It's not like diabetes where some people do and some people don't. Um, this happens. And because the thing was already like on a precarious teeter-totter, it derails
Right.
everything.
Yes.
So I think, as you even say, that a lot of women, that might be quite daunting, even just to say, take a deep breath, hand on your heart, or whatever it happens to be, and ask yourself, what do you want? And I reckon for a lot of women, the answer would either be sleep and for everybody to go away and leave me alone for like 2 days, or they don't know. So that
Oh, yeah.
feedback is not there. So what are some things, and this is where I said in stress management, capacity, handling capacity and overwhelm is one of the subsections that I have, because I kind of encourage women to do a bit of a life audit, get rid of things that aren't necessary, and to come up with strategies to help with that feeling of overwhelm and managing the mental load, because often it's just that there aren't systems in place. Sometimes there's too much going on. Like women will come to me and they'll say, oh, I'm so exhausted, and I say to them, okay, well, do you like Chanel bags, or like would you like a Ferrari? And they're like, yeah, for the sake of the exercise. But yes, I like Chanel. Yes, I like pretty makeup. And I said, but you wouldn't go out and buy 500 Chanel bags, would you? Why not? Because it would cost a fortune, and almost no one has that kind of money just lying around. And yet, with our energy stores, we seem to think that we have this never-ending supply that we should just be able to tap and tap and tap and tap into. But we don't treat our time like that. We don't treat our money like that. And our energy is a resource, and we can renew it. But as we get older, our capacity changes. That's just part of life, and that's just part of getting older. And so I think carving out a moment to be with yourself is important. Do you have any kind of tips around that? Is there anything that you would recommend usually to people?
Yeah, well, I definitely love that you've guided us here and that, yes, coming home to your body is your priority and finding out what is safe. So, safe, if that's the word, like even understanding is your nervous system in parasympathetic, like is your heart rate and your breathing and um yeah, your you're calm, like you feel like the energy that you have, is it back there? If not, that would be a really great place to start, like just to look at how do I take myself back to safety. And most of us are all over breathing. So our bodies are on alert the whole time. And when you're on alert, you're never going to really drop into feeling pleasure anyway. So, here's the thing, we're kind of fighting up against it. Like you said, if you're too tired and all these things, that's the reason your sex drive's gone down. It's not that you don't have it. So
Yeah.
it's about clearing, giving yourself space. So little things are find yourself. I mean, I alluded to it. I think you need to find yourself a support network, a support person, a group of people that you can feel safe to explore this type of work in, which is why I invite women into spaces with me, because once you realize you're not alone,
Mm.
that you feel like, oh, it's actually quite normal, you've got different resources, coming back to being a friend to yourself. So you would do it to your younger children, you might do it to a friend, go, hey, mate, you're so tired, or that's of course you need some rest. So giving yourself space, asking for what you want. So, I mean, that's a really challenging thing, but saying to a partner or whatever, I need a break, I need to go on holiday. I mean, that's why your sex life perks up on holidays, because you don't
Yeah.
have all these things stretching you and pulling you out of feeling safe in your body. You know, so yeah, I mean, tips I think is realizing that first of all, you need to
Penny, I'm
be
so sorry. This is the third time this call's gone off.
go. Someone needs you.
Bueno. So anyway, I'm going to just start again and say we're back. I had to jump off. And this is a classic example. I'm leaving it like this. because this is life at our age,
Yeah.
right?
And
Like,
you've got to go, what was I saying?
yeah,
As
but
well.
also we don't necessarily just have the luxury of sitting in a room alone with our thoughts and figuring out new pleasure principles. You know what I mean? Like we've got life, and I think that's something that is important to note as well, that we may need to reset our expectations around the frequency of sex. And maybe Lara Brydon talks about this as well, that maybe our sexual experiences are less frequent, but we can take our time with them. Let's say we have sex twice a month, for example, whereas we used to have it 3 times a week, that those 2 times in a month, we can take our time more and we can
Have
enjoy that.
quality, not yeah.
And maybe that's part of it as well, is that now I had to interrupt you. I'm sorry, because I had to grab that phone call because immigration were calling me because I'm an expat living in Mexico, for those of you that don't know. So do you remember where you were up to? We were talking about remapping pleasure in our bodies and taking
Yeah, how
some
do
time
we, where
out.
do we start? I
And
mean,
so
there's
I, go on.
a couple of things I would like to say is um, going back to our body. So I may not have said this that, in our midlife, it's quite normal to be responsive, but I also, responsive meaning we don't necessarily think we want it, and we're responding to the stimuli and the context and maybe the people in our environment. I think that's really important to know that in some ways a lot of women have always been like that.
Mm.
Anyway, our bodies are more responsive than men's, and you talked about like the penis being so much easier to understand. The vulva and our vagina, they engorge kind of like a penis, but it takes a lot longer, and so we need more time to turn ourselves on, and it will inflate like a penis does. And what that does is helps us sort of protect our body from any sort of friction and pummeling, or
Yeah,
whatever you want
injury.
to say,
Yeah, injury.
injury, right? But what I've learned, and I wish women knew, and I'm sharing here, is had we been fully engorged and ready and turned on before we have any type of penetration or push ourselves through sexual encounters, we would feel more pleasure because it wouldn't feel painful and things like that. So, number one is I want women to never ever do anything that doesn't feel right in their body. You have
Mm.
absolute sovereignty and permission to do that. And the more you do that, the more trust your body will have, because it's like, oh, finally, you're listening to me. You're doing what I want. And I've been telling you it hasn't been safe. Your body will open up and receive when it is ready for any type of encounter. And that's why it's so important to have those moments with yourself, to understand your body, to know how long it takes for you to turn on, to be able to guide someone, which is what I was sort of saying at some point around how if our younger people have this information, they can say, no, you need to touch here, or I need more
Yeah.
time, or
I
I
don't
need
like that. That doesn't feel
lubrication.
good. I prefer it when
Yeah,
you do this,
yeah. Or can
which
we move around?
I
And our
mean, it
body
seems really
changes.
obvious when you say it like that, but we were not taught, as you said, to request pleasure. And I think
So
maybe that's,
yeah, even things like our body changes moment by moment. You're probably starting to notice that in terms of like your hormones are changing all the time, but that's also how we receive sexual, energy, and what we create ourselves. Like one time one thing works, the next time no, it doesn't feel good at all.
mm,
You can have different brakes and accelerators. So just to explain that, like the accelerators are things that make you feel good and make you kind of want to move forward, and the brakes are things that are going to stop you. And it can be all those things that feel unsafe. It can be like the fear that someone's going to walk in. You might be cold.
mm.
You might have a lot of stuff on your um, mental load. You might have pain in your body. You might,
Can I
yeah,
just
all sorts of things
say
are
the
going to come
breaks
up.
might
And
even be something like your husband won't put his socks in the hamper no matter how many times you ask him.
yeah,
Like this is
and
it,
you pick.
the brakes
Yeah,
and the accelerator start way before you even entered the bedroom. And I think that is
yeah,
something that talking about what we need and what we want, it's not even just touch me here, touch me there, don't touch me like that. It's, hey, when I've asked you to hang that picture on the wall 27 times and it's still not done, and then you want to have sex, I feel less likely to do that because
yeah,
that's bugging me this is something, it may sound silly, but this is something, if you could hang that picture for me, I would really appreciate it. That would take that thing off my to-do list. And as my to-do list shortens, as my mental load shortens, I'm going to be more likely to want to explore things in the bedroom with you. So
Yeah.
I think the
Plus, I mean, there's the
accelerator,
to-do list. There's the to-do list, but there's also you're not listening to me. Like,
yeah,
come on. I've
exactly.
I've requested. So if you're not feeling seen, heard, and valued, that are ultimately going to undermine any kind of openness. Like your heart shuts down. You're going, you're not actually seeing
And that's
seeing
that thing
me
we've been
for what
talking
you
about
are.
with the hormones. When you've got estrogen, progesterone working in your favor, working in your court, that sort of stuff can slide off you a bit, like roll off a duck's back kind of thing. You can let it go. Whereas now the letting go of those sorts of things, the not saying anything about it becomes less of an option. So you have to start having some of these conversations, and it doesn't have to be combative. And this, I think, I'm going to jump ahead to a question I had for you, and then maybe we can come back if necessary. And that is just that I think a lot of women, it ties into what you were saying about don't do something if you feel you're not quite ready in your body. And I would say there's probably women out there who want to make love to their partners and they think, well, I want to do this for them because they clearly want it, and I don't really feel like it as much, but that's okay because I'll just assume the position, and I'm here, and it's an act of giving, but you may have to kind of grit your teeth a little bit because you're not ready, you're not engorged, lubrication might be an issue. You're not feeling like it in the first place, and you're saying don't have that kind of sex because that will cause your body to lose trust in you even more. Yeah.
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 I
So
would
what could
be
we do
the
instead? Because
doing
I
it for
feel,
someone else is
yeah,
like we're done with doing it for someone else because that's just building a bigger problem for you later on. It's not actually, you need to kind of go back and go, well, what is it, first of all, that I need? And it could be that you could come to a place where both needs are met. Like, wouldn't that be ideal?
that's
Like, you
and that's
actually,
that's what this discussion I sort of want to guide towards is because I think that anyone who's watching this particular masterclass, sex, a fulfilling sex life is obviously important to them. Otherwise, they're skipping to like diet and digestion.
yeah, yeah.
How do I do progressive overload in the gym? So
No, I
I
have no
was
idea. Don't
I
ask
would
me.
assume within that, that yes, they're looking for their own sort of sexual satisfaction and feeling like they can still achieve sex and eroticism for their own sake, but it's important to them in their relationship as well, and they want to fulfill the needs of their partner. So it's not kind of doing it for someone else in a begrudging way, but it's recognizing that I want to do this thing for my partner, but kind of locking, loading, and thinking of England is not going to help me. And in fact, it's going to set me further back because my body will shut down even more. So, we'll need to enter into a conversation with our partners about how things are changing and that sexuality between the two of you is still important and that it's time to communicate more and explore more, I would say. And then what are some sorts of, in your work, when you take that penetrative sex off the table, what are some things that you put on the table for couples to experiment with?
Well, I mean, there's lots of brilliant resources you can find, or I can
Yep.
help guide you to some where you can almost do like a little quiz or a survey and find out like what kind of things are out there. Like I talk to there's this smorgasbord of sexual activities and interests and things out there. And sometimes you haven't even had a conversation with a partner. I know in my marriage I had it about well, what are the things that you think your body might be interested in? What are you? And so you can start to open up. There might be overlap of things you've never actually tried together. And it can be, the kissing. We get into ruts, I think, and we get into things like I know what they know what I need, and no one's ever really challenged that.
Here's what I'm going to say. There's like the standard hetero formula, right?
Mm.
Is get into bed, maybe kiss a little bit, be naked. Someone performs some oral sex on one partner, the other partner performs some oral sex on the other partner. Penetrative sex occurs with the goal to being orgasm of both partners, and then you go to sleep.
Yeah, which
Fair
is
enough. Fair to say?
fun for a few times, but like let's be honest, fast forward, it can be a little bit like, oh, my body knows what's, you either check
It's
out, you might even be
it's
thinking
boring.
about something else.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, you,
and that was Layla Martin has like her what do you call it? Hierarchy. There's bad terrible sex, I think it's just bad sex, average sex, good sex, amazing sex, epic sex or something. And I would say probably most people are having that average sex, which is like you've got your three or four moves. Partners have got their eyes closed and might be running through a fantasy in their head, which again, there's nothing wrong with
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But there's more available sexually to
But
couples.
often you've only got a little window too, right? So you're like, oh, we've
This
got
is the
15
other
minutes.
thing, like being real, and that's what I was saying
So
before about being realistic.
let's
We
get
can't
to
all
the,
become tantric sex goddesses because someone's got to do the laundry.
yeah. But so I guess what I would say is too, in a relationship, it's very normal and it's okay. And I didn't really understand this to have your own sex life with yourself as well. Like you can have your relationship with your partner, you can get some of your needs met, you can learn a bit more about your body. So then you have confidence to go back to that partner and ask for things and say, hey, I've been doing some work with the, maybe a coach, or I've been listening or reading up on this. I've had some time with myself, taking away the shame. I mean, most women are like, oh my God, I couldn't possibly do that. I know I had the fear of if I have my own sex life with myself, I won't even want it with my husband. So then he's going to go, why the hell aren't you wanting me?
Do
But
you know,
what
I
I
was, I was
found,
about to say, so that's what I was going to ask you because that would be my concern would not be, oh, I can't do that. It's not okay. My concern would be, how do I explain to my partner that this has nothing to do with him? Like, well, not
well, but for that
nothing.
reason, why don't you go back and say, I'm doing research on where
Yeah.
what I really find amazing, and I can bring that back to you, and that's going to enhance our sex life.
Because
Like we can
we,
now go exploring because say
yeah,
it's anal sex, right? And you've had maybe past experiences aren't so great, or you feel a bit nervous about it. Why not explore that with yourself? Why not do, the time of maybe getting a butt plug, or understanding what lube you like or whatever it is, and do that research with yourself. No
mm,
pressure, there's no expectation. You can have like little moments, you can go back to resources, do the homework, then go back to them and say, I know I'm ready now, I've done something, this is what I know will work. It's going to be much more attractive to them. I think we've misunderstood that husbands or men only want, that end goal, and they don't actually care. They want to feel connection too. They want you to be, to be
100%. I think most
turned on and
men,
have, they'd be
yeah,
horrified to think that you're just faking it or putting up with it or doing it for them. They're just doing the best they can. So it's up
definitely.
to us. There's a really great book I'd like to recommend.
Yeah.
I interviewed and I've got the podcast with her, Shana James. She's a sex coach or sexologist. I'm not sure which her qualification is, but she's a relationship coach as well. And she's called the book Honest Sex. And I think what's really important, it's like we've first of all got to be honest with ourselves. Is the sex we're having any good? Do we like it? What actually feels good? That's kind of going back to what feels good in our body. Most women are maybe drunk, or maybe even drugged sometimes when they're having sex to kind of get through it, or they're so numb out they have disconnected. Again, no one's fault, but these are the things that are stopping us from being honest with ourselves, so then our body's not really on our side.
Mm.
And then honest with the people in our lives, so your partner's really, really important to kind of go, you know what, it hasn't been working for me. Or if you can't use the word, she helps you in some of the chapters, but it's learning how to say no, or guide with hands or body language or whatever. There's lots of different ways you can be sort of suggesting, if you don't like your breasts touched, for example, to move your hand to another part that you like touched, and then using moans and things like that to sort of suggest, hey, that feels really good, right? So you can use language and communication, and many of us have stopped doing that or had no idea. So again, a little bit of education can be really important. Did I
Yeah, so
answer
I
your question?
think just to explain, yeah, I guess the question was that I imagine that a lot of men may feel concerned if their partner, and I say men, but a partner may find that it's confronting or threatening if their partner is suddenly, if the woman is suddenly saying, hey, I want to go and spend some time exploring my body, feeling into what feels good for me. I want to have some like solo sex. And it's not a reflection of the quality of the sex that I'm having with you, a negative reflection. And it's not, I'm not saying that I would rather pleasure myself than have sex with you. This is a part of us continuing to have a fulfilling and connected sex life, even though my body is going through some changes. And I'm doing this for both of us. And it's not, yeah, it's not a reflection on you. I think that would be my
But I think how
concern.
you phrase that's actually
Yeah.
a really good way to approach it. You don't have to tell them. Here's the thing, right? I guess what I'm telling you just to begin with is, if anything, this will fuel you. So
Mm.
the more you educate yourself, the more confidence you have in your body, the more understanding of what feels good. And we're going back to basics. It might be, I like soft, slow movements, or I like scratchy touch, or, like
Or grab me,
really,
firmly
yeah, like
and
I
don't,
like,
yeah.
what I mean? It's like if we go to a masseur and we say, what kind of touch? Like
What
most
kind
of
of
us will
pressure we
go,
like. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
you've got an understanding. The same goes to all different parts of your body from top to toe. Some people like their hair touched, some people like, don't you dare, so
Yeah. Yeah.
everyone's got things. And then sometimes you're like, oh, I forgot I like that. So it's about kind of waking up and going, oh, noticing you've got so much on the table there. And it adds curiosity and interest and intrigue and interest that we were talking about. If your sex life's feeling a bit vanilla and boring, there's other things that you can be introducing, but you don't have to. And you don't have
Mm.
to do it all at once. Like, it's just like, oh, wow, it's like going on a holiday. Oh, my, there's all these things I could try. It doesn't mean I have to go and do them all at once. I can try them moment by moment, feel into it. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be said of, this is a part, and I said it earlier, that our sexual energy is like a life force energy. The
Mm.
more you take an interest in this, it's going to flow into all aspects of your life. I feel fucking amazing, and I'm not having sex every day, but I know, because I give attention to this part of my life, and
Yeah.
I know how important it is. So it becomes, if you're going back to that Ferrari or whatever, like, I'm putting fuel in my tank. And
Yeah.
so I then can go further in all aspects of my life. I don't need to, the things that are stopping us in the bedroom, those conversations, those things that we want to ask for, are stopping us in all aspects of your life. So, if you're struggling to ask for a pay rise or talk to your family about something that's feeling quite challenging, chances are this intimate part of your life you're struggling with. So it's kind of a really good place to go back to and go, I need to address this.
In
If you go
Chinese
back there,
medicine, the liver channel encircles the genitals, and the emotion that relates to the liver is stress and frustration. And one of the best ways to get our energy moving and to clear stress and frustration is to move energy in the genitals because of the path of the liver channel. And I think that there's also, if you studied psychology, I can't remember the name, Wilhelm Reich, who had this idea of orgone energy, and that we needed to have regular orgasms to like clean out trauma from the system. And it's kind of not mainstream, but he was one of the foundational theories that built modern day psychology. He's one of the ones that I learnt about. And I think I want to really reinforce what you're
I just
saying
be
is,
careful about science, because there's a lot of it's men running the show. So there's a lot of, like Freud's made all kinds of challenges for women because of the way he approached his his work. So
yeah,
yeah, I
no,
think we just need to be mindful.
definitely take what you're saying there on board. But what I mean is, I believe that using sexuality and your sexual energy to move your energy in your body is as important as exercise to humans.
Yeah.
I really do believe that. And if you don't, when I say you, I mean whoever's watching this and listening to this, if that doesn't resonate for you, that's okay. But if you're like, yeah, that's what I feel as well, then, but it's so hard for me right now, and I don't feel like it, and I used to feel like it, and sex hurts, and I want to say, approach things with curiosity. From everything
Mm.
I've heard you say, it's like, let's go back to basics. and let's just relearn. Imagine you've been given a new body because you
Yeah,
basically have
pretty much. Yeah.
been given a new body. So, what would you do if you woke up one day and found out that this body was new? Probably you
You're
would
a
do
pleasure
step
researcher. Like get out there and go, wow, like if I was in this new body, what does it do? What can it do? What does it feel like? What different conditions? What and so that's that responsive thing. You're going to almost have to schedule time with yourself. Like the for the reasons that you're busy will always come up. Like there'll always be something like, oh,
Yeah.
I struggle to have women come into the work that I'm doing because of this reason. But when they do, they're like, oh my God, it changes everything really
Whole
quite
life.
quickly.
Yeah. Should
Yeah.
have done it ages ago. I'm going to check
Yeah.
our notes now, just to make sure that we've been covering off the things that I put down. So we've talked actually a lot about the difference between responsive and spontaneous desire. And I will throw in a definition now, just in case people have heard those terms and gone, what are they actually talking about? So, spontaneous desire, as I understand it, is you're sitting around, it's 4 o'clock on a Thursday, and suddenly you feel horny and you want to have sex and that you are motivated to the sex. Whereas responsive desire is you're not thinking or feeling like sex, but then you either read something saucy or you get a back rub or someone sends you a saucy text or whatever it is through a stimulus. You are then responding to that stimulus with feeling like, oh, yes, now I would like to have sex. And I think if you've had a lot of I would say when I put that up on my stories when I first learned about it in Instagram, and I got all these messages from women who were like, that would have been good to know a long time ago. Because I said, if you are waiting, if you think you have a low sex drive because you're waiting to feel horny, you're going about it all wrong, right? And
Yeah.
it's not, you don't have a low sex drive. You just have more responsive desire than you do spontaneous desire. And yeah, I've got these women who are like, huh, I kind of wish I knew that in my 20s. Um,
Yeah.
so that's those two.
And
And
the other
then
thing to say, just quickly to that,
go
is
for it.
like this idea that you can build up that kind of scenario context for you if you are aware of what it is that you'll respond to, right? So your body, you might start to learn, okay, I respond to, music and lighting and sexy kind of food
And
or
that
whatever. Like,
might be new for you. So I will say now, I'll do a personal share that I used to have lots of spontaneous desire. And that's pretty much gone now. Like I can remember the last time and it pertains exactly to what we were talking about is when we went back to Australia and I was staying at my mother-in-law's place and she was taking care of us. She was deciding what to have for dinner. She was doing most of like the shopping. She was hanging out with the kids because she was wanting to spend time with them. The dogs were back here. The house was back here. And so all of the mental load was lifted and and I had a moment of spontaneous desire where I was like, oh, I'd like to have sex. And I was like, oh my God, what just happened? So now I can't remember why I was telling everybody about my sex drive. Oh, yes, that's right. Now I can. Nowadays, that's gone because I used to think that lingerie and candles and back rubs was made up. Getting in the mood was a made up thing to sell stuff to women because what do you mean you need to get in the mood? Don't you just feel like having sex? So now I understand that's kind of part of responsive desire. And I'll say as well that women will also be more likely to have responsive desire when they themselves are feeling good about themselves. So it could be, yes, your partner gives you a back rub or a foot rub, or you're wearing sexy lingerie or whatever. Could also be that you took some time to go to the gym and you're feeling better and you saw yourself in the mirror and you're like, oh, deltoid definition, and you're feeling yourself again. You're like, oh yeah, oh, I'm feeling good. And that will then respond you. It's not English, but those things also create that responsive desire. It's not always about what's going on in the bedroom. In fact, I would say it's probably mostly not about what's
uh,
going on in the
yeah,
bedroom.
it's before the bedroom.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it's really, my dog's just barking at me. Can I just quickly
Yeah,
deal with
because
him?
this is real world. I'm not even going to edit this bit. This is the point I'm making,
Okay.
ladies. We live in this real world.
So I was going to say, like, our bodies open up. Like we in a female body, like this is obviously not always gendered, but most women will find um, that they will feel amazing to receive. Like your body is designed to receive penetration anyway, right? So what we often do is we don't switch ourselves out of this masculine energy or this yang energy that we're moving in all day, every day. We come home, we're organizing our lives, and we need to kind of switch into that feminine in order to be able to receive. So there's a moment where you could, as a practice, introduce time for yourself. So a sex coach I know and have interviewed Jenny Braxton, and she talks about having a shower and putting on some music and dancing for herself and stuff. That's putting herself into the feminine. So then
Mm,
she's actually more open to responding to her partner, her husband, you know. So I feel that's sort of been a bit missing. And I was the masculine energy, I was the yang energy in my relationship. So
mm,
I was getting annoyed that I was driving the sex in my relationship and I wanted him to want me and to, but he was like waiting because I did it all, you know, like I was the one running things and pushing and controlling and doing all those things. So you'll often find women are a bit like, what the hell? Because you've got two masculine yang energies
mm,
in a relationship and you're kind of bucking up against each other. One's waiting, not sure, and you're just hitting up against each other. So, in terms of sort of setting yourself up, is to be aware of the energies in your relationships. Esther Perel also talks about polarity, also having variety in your relationship,
mm.
not going back to the same things. We love in relationship feeling safe and commitment and all those things, but they actually bore us.
Yeah.
Our we get habituated to them. They find it they're normal and they don't turn us on as much. So we kind of need to be dancing in this balance of allowing ourselves some variety, changing, mixing things up. But I would suggest for many women who are in the world that we're living in, how to drop back into more of a receiving, more gentle, more softness. And it feels a bit edgy, but it works.
Well, and what I want to say, which is going to be very edgy, is that I think, and you'll be able to potentially expound on this, is behind why a lot of women have those fantasies where they're kind of being taken against their will, and when you unpack that, because the question is, well, why would anyone fantasize about being overpowered sexually? Like, isn't that assault? Isn't that like sexual assault? But
Yeah.
it's because the choice and someone else is taking the lead
Yeah.
and you aren't. And then I think there's also potentially, if there's been any shame about having your own sexual appetite, you're like, oh
Yeah.
no.
I don't
And
have
so,
to. Yeah.
right. So you're being fulfilled within that fantasy without having the sexual appetite. But also, I do think it's a case of the other person is taking the lead, the other person is taking control. And that's why that exists. And it's exactly what you're sort of saying, that we have to keep these. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be out there in our yang masculine, because our lives need to be lived. And I'm very much a realist. And that's why, as we've been saying this in the back of my head, I want to say as well, why we mentioned before, start slow, just choose one thing, is because we don't want to put become a sex goddess on the to-do list. Like, it can even feel like it's too much. But I suppose this conversation is here for you when you feel like, right, I'm going to make some space, or I feel as though there is some space in my life to introduce this, and this is how I start, and this is how I go about it. There's nothing wrong with me. I have been given a new body and I can approach it with curiosity when the time feels right. So we
And
talked about,
the pleasure you're giving, even if it's little mini steps, and they do sound quite simple, is like do something for yourself, like take yourself out on a date or,
mm,
do something that feels good for you. It might be
even
reading a book, whatever,
if you moisturize, how do we moisturize?
slowly,
Like, so moisturize yourself just a little
with
more
gratitude.
consciously,
Yeah.
like with gratitude, as you say, this is my elbow. Thank you, elbow. Like all of these things. So just, it can be simple. It can be something that can be inserted into your day without necessarily having to put another step in there
And I think if you know that it's, oh, I'm not just doing this for my sexual outcomes, like this is actually going to flow into all areas of your
of my
life.
life. Yeah.
If you know that any, yeah, any little pieces that you're putting towards your own pleasure are going to pay dividends. Just remember
Yeah,
that.
across the board. Um, which I'm looking down the list. So yes, we've just covered that. dealing with the loss of the former self and welcoming in the new version. And that was what we were just talking about with imagine you've been given a new body because you have. But let's talk momentarily, I think, about the fact that it's okay to feel sad and it's okay to feel like, but I don't want to have to do all of this. Like, I just want my old body back where sex felt good. And it's not fair. And why is this happening to me? It's okay to have those feelings. I'm going to throw over to you. Did you have feelings like that? Or do many of your clients have those sorts of feelings? And how do you approach that? Because maybe it's just me. Because
No,
I kind of
well,
am
I
like,
think there's a lot around body. Like I think most women are stuck with, oh, my body's changed. I don't like my new
yeah,
body. Um, or and I guess it has flow throughs to things like you said, like parts of myself. I guess it's being compassionate and understanding, speaking with other women about it. I mean, I would suggest too, we probably there's a bit of an illusion about how good it was, and we've kind of sometimes thought back to, oh, it was really good, but maybe, sometimes you forget all the actual discomfort that maybe was associated with that as well. So, yeah, maybe we go, oh, I had a sex drive and it was easy, but were you really giving yourself the time even then? Like,
yeah,
was it
probably
for you?
not.
Was it for someone else, right? Like, so there's a lot of things you could probably unpack and go, well, in all honesty, so going back to that honest sex, like, was it actually that good? Or was I doing it for me or someone else? And was I loving the fact that he loved me and, he was getting so turned on and that
Yeah,
was actually part of the turn on.
yeah.
But imagine I guess I'm also referring, and that's what's, I guess, so interesting about sex is every time is different. Like you can't go, oh, that's my model and it'll always work that way. So
Mm.
you've got this lifetime ahead of you. And if you're feeling like, oh, I haven't had a good sex life, don't feel like, oh, I've missed the boat. This is a time you can absolutely begin and start and have incredible discoveries. Yeah. So it's
Many
not
women also report having great sex post menopause as well.
Absolutely.
I
Well, you
want
don't have
to.
to worry about getting pregnant. That's a
Mm.
big bonus. There's a lot to be like not giving two hoots about what everyone else thinks about them because we have for so long been worried about what other people think of our bodies and how we're showing up in the world and stuff. So there's a lot of freedom to be had.
And
I
even
think most
physiologically,
women
though, because the perimenopause transition is characterized by instability. And when you hit menopause, stability comes back into the picture because the hormones do not fluctuate anywhere near as much as they do in perimenopause is one of the most, I think it's more tumultuous than puberty. No one quote me on that, but I seem to remember that it's because the
well, we've
estrogen
got
can
less
go just so skyrocket so high. And whereas when we get to menopause, there's a calmness, and you don't even month to month during your reproductive years, you're cycling as a woman, and so you're up and you're down and you're up and you're down and you're left and you're right, and sometimes you don't even know where you are, and that goes away. And it's just kind of, you just kick into this steady hum. You're no longer so affected
and we
by,
kick
we're all
in at a good
cyclical.
we kick in at a good place too.
Yeah.
Like
And
the
testosterone becomes relatively higher. And what I mean by that is your testosterone levels are here. When you were fertile, your estrogen levels was like here. So that delta was bigger. As the estrogen drops, testosterone is kind of like relatively dominant. So actually many women say that post-menopause they get a lift in their sex drive. And it's due to that rearrangement between the estrogen and the testosterone. So it's not true for all because nothing's true for all. And this is the whole point about context and about nuance. So communication with
I'd
partner we've
probably
talked about.
also go back.
Oh, go
I'd
on. Yes,
also
please.
just talk to, being whatever your body's resisting, whatever's coming up that you're noticing as resistance, that's something to really address because that's the stuff that sticks around. Whatever you resist persists. So whether it's pain or discomfort or resistance to how you're changing, like wherever you can sort of take some time to work through that and come into a place of acceptance, that's where you're going to actually find that it will move through faster. I think anything you're hanging on to and like, no, no, I really want to be that and I want that to be the case and that's the only way through. Well, that's going to prolong the situation that you're currently in.
That's why
The
mindset is my number was when I did my
yeah,
list of like the 5 areas. I feel mindset's number one because if you are going through this transition just thinking, oh, this is all fucked, my hair's changing, my skin's changing, my body's changing, I don't want sex anymore, everyone's pissing me off.
yeah,
um, and I just want it to all go back and it's not fair. The thing that always breaks my heart is women are like, men don't have to do this, it's so unfair. And I think menopause, Kimberly Ann Johnson, I was
yeah,
listening to her masterclass recently, and she said something really profound, which is menopause is a death rehearsal. And I've been saying this that I actually think women are lucky to go through this because if not, you might just go along until the end of your life, which, P.S., you don't know when that could be, just fucking not being who you want to be and doing the things that you want to do because nothing shook you to say, hey, it's you're not here forever. And I think I was on a podcast with my friend Maddie, and that's what I said is I think one of the issues for us going through menopause as women is in our culture, we don't talk about death. We don't want to know about death. Ignore it. It's not a thing until we get there. But if you don't accept that you're going to die, then you are playing a losing game from the moment you are born because we are all born terminal, right? So once you accept, I'm not here forever and I'm going to die at some point, then you can be like, okay, well, that phase of my life where I was homesteading, maybe looking after babies or whatever it happens to be, juggling kids and a job and blah, 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 that's now kind of coming to a close. I can't do the things that I used to do in the same way that I used to do them. How do I want to move forward with my life? And it's about living the next part of your life consciously. And if you didn't get that slap up the side of the head from menopause, maybe you would never ask that question. And then you would come to the end of your life and be like, holy shit, why did I just spend all my time doing that?
yeah.
So,
I think Christiane Northrup says it's the mother of all wake-up calls,
yeah,
menopause.
yeah,
I feel like I also need to declare I've gone through menopause. I'm like a year and a half no bleed, and I, in my perimenopause, I think because of the amount of attention that I actually gave myself in the lead up in my 40s, so I'm 50 now, that that paid off. So like whilst you might think, oh, investing in myself, that's a bit like unrealistic or it's expensive or whatever, honestly, it does pay off. And I would also suggest, wherever possible, removing, and you talked about being conscious, like removing the things that you're ingesting, the things that you're doing that don't support your body. So I removed all alcohol, coffee, there were things that can be quite considered quite ruthless, I guess. And some people are like, oh, I never want to do that. Biggest, best decisions I've ever done. Like it was definitely something that I know has helped me. And I know also from all the work that I've done in this space that cortisol is one of your number one enemies. So
yeah.
if you're putting your body under stress and then kind of masking it with coffee and alcohol, that's sort of something to really focus on as well. Stress will kill your sex drive too. Like, let's be
Yeah,
honest. It's one of
that's why you're in the nervous system section and the managing stress
yeah,
section.
yeah, yeah. And
um,
yeah, sex can help you with it as well, right? So it can be a beautiful stress release, and it can also, it's a kind of a medicine cupboard of incredible hormones that get released when you do feel orgasmic and stuff. So it's kind of
I
like,
think
well,
oxytocin is such an unsung hero, and we're going to be
yeah,
hearing more and more about that. That's going to start entering the conversation more than it already has, I believe, very soon
yeah,
because it's not
I
talked
love
about enough. I want to ask you, this is a bit more of a practical question now in terms of penetrative sex must-haves I've written in terms of if you're going to have penetrative sex at this point, and it's been feeling uncomfortable, what are the things we should definitely have? And on that list I have adequate arousal is number one, and then I've got lubricant might be something that you have to use for the first time. We can talk a bit about that.
I
I've
think
also
lube's one of the most under like unsung heroes. Like I think everyone should have lube from the word go for, and it's not just in menopause or perimenopause. I think it's if you go and have a massage, they don't ever massage your back without putting a lubricant on your back and beautiful oil. So why would we even go in there without that? I think that's just a
I would say
no-brainer.
caveat if you notice that lubricant, try lube. And if you're like, oh, that helped a lot, then and again, we're sort of not talking about perimenopause right now, but or if you're
Yeah.
in perimenopause and sometimes you're still getting lubricated easily or more I want to say more naturally, but that's not right. Then experiment with lube. But there are some women for whom lube it's not necessary, and I've worked with women who actually have too much lubrication and it
Yeah.
causes
Yeah.
issues. So this is what I'm saying about context, nuance,
Yeah.
like that. Give it a
But
try.
I guess what I was saying in that is that it can be one of those things your body can then respond to, right? Like if
Yeah,
you're waiting
exactly.
and you're in that boat of like, oh, I've got to wait till I'm naturally lubricated.
No,
That's
you
kind of,
don't. Yeah, no, you
yeah,
don't. But if you're someone that's finding that natural lubrication is there, then experiment, but you may not necessarily need it. But
need it.
certainly
Correct.
if you're noticing a problem with lubrication, if there's any kind of friction or discomfort, lube. Now, I will say
Yeah.
not all lubes are created equal, and I'm intending to publish this conversation on YouTube, so I'm going to have a list of resources down in the comments below, and one of them will be a lubricant guide because you need to make sure it's free from like additives and crap and alcohol, that it has a certain pH, a certain osmolality, which I won't get into in this discussion. I think we might have talked about that on one of our podcasts, which I will
Yeah.
also link below. I've also said here because some women can start to develop issues with vaginal infections at this stage. That is a whole topic. I think we talked about it. I've certainly talked about it with someone, so that'll be a
Yeah.
resource down below. But you may need to use condoms if you're getting recurrent BV or issues like that. So there may be some things that you have to change. I would say vaginal moisturizing is really important. This is my favorite one, the Yes brand. Some women find that CBD oil as a moisturizer not only helps with protection of the tissues, but can help with clitoral sensitivity. That's anecdotal. There's no research that supports that, but I'm all for anecdotal stuff. So, moisturizing daily externally and internally a few times a week. And then possibly some women may benefit from HRT, whether it's just topical estrogen or topical testosterone, or systemic. But again, that's what I mean about nuance and context. That will be some women that want to go down that path and others that don't want to or can't for different reasons. Is there anything else that you would say is on that list?
Well, the arousal bit right from the
Yeah.
word go, like that's probably the biggest one. And I would like to share a book
Yeah.
called Women's Anatomy of Arousal. Unbelievable. Like that tells you everything you need to know about your body and why and how it gets aroused. And it's so important. But that's sort of being slow only ever you can even ask your body, is it okay for something to enter me now? Like, and it could be your own finger or a pleasure wand or someone else's body part as well. But I think it's checking in, and when your body goes yes, you will know a yes, like it'll feel like, yep, I'm open to this. Women that are feeling any kind of pain, don't go anywhere near pain. Pain is your body saying no, and you need to honor that. And so whether it is going back to getting some of these resources and tools or learn, you could start to understand your body through like using a yoni egg, or back to just noticing, what do I need? And feeling okay that you don't, sex does not equal penetration. If
Mm.
you don't want to have any penetration, that's perfectly okay and normal. And a partner that's not willing to work with you with that isn't kind of your partner.
That's a different masterclass, isn't it? Like if you are open, and that's something we should probably say, if you're open and honest with your partner and it's not met well, then that is not a
That's a
you
problem.
problem. Yeah, it's not a you problem, but it is a symptom of a different problem. And
Not to be ignored either, right?
yeah,
So, yeah,
correct.
there's the and I would suggest, if it's something that's a goal for both of you or whatever, that there are ways to it, and it's not just keep forcing it or we've done it this way. Like I said, there's so many options on the
Yeah.
table and
And to almost
ways that
like
you
sign
can.
an agreement, like I know it sounds silly, but write down an agreement that says, whenever we talk about this, no one is to blame. I'm not
Yeah,
blaming you. Signed this person.
yeah,
Because it's really easy, I think, for people to take it on and see feedback as criticism, but it's not. It's just about maintaining open communication for the good of the relationship, which is, I
yeah.
think, is important. And if
Well, the
sex,
other one too is, if you do want to give feedback, maybe don't do it in the moment. Like,
that's a really
you
good
know,
one, isn't it?
Don't do it in the bedroom. Do it when there's like less emotion attached to it or rejection that will be
Yeah.
felt. I mean, that's not to push through it, but you don't have to go, and here's why, because you did this, 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 and that
I made
doesn't
a
land.
PowerPoint.
You suck at that. Like it's more around saying, look, I need to share a bit more about my body. This is what I'm aware of. Like coming back to, I need this. This is
Yeah.
um, it feels good in my body now. I know my body's shifting. I'm curious to find out different ways. Would you go on that journey with me? So
Yeah.
there's lots of different ways you can, and like I said, resources where you can actually get curious about, oh wow, we're both actually interested in exploring this.
And
Um,
that's the last thing on my list, which we can end there, is could you share your resources? And again, I'll link them, but if you wanted to share those resources
Yeah,
now.
sure.
So,
Well, I talked about this book,
mhm.
Women's Anatomy of Arousal. I only ever heard of it when I did my sex coaching training, and I would think, gosh, it's, secret maps to buried treasure. Like our bodies, and if women don't know this, have really only been mapped in the last 30 years, like
I
crazy.
know.
So no one's fault. Like for us, when we were being educated, say at school or even in our early sexual experiences, that information wasn't available to us. So in all fairness, we're doing really well. And then another book that I think is just a really great one, Pussy, a Reclamation. So that's just again understanding how important it is that we understand the physiological aspects of our body, the clitoris, and but equally sisterhood and sister spaces, and how important it is that we are supported emotionally through life. I think that's really important. Emily Nagoski's Come As You Are. So that talks all about the spontaneous and responsive desire. And she talks about brakes and accelerators and just normalizes it. And
And it's
I
a
listen to
very
it.
approachable book, that one. Like, I think she
Yeah.
keeps it really, for someone that includes a lot of technicality, it's very easy to understand.
Yeah. So she's, yeah, a sex educator and a PhD and scientist and all that sort of thing. But I listen to it on Audible. So
Mm.
that's the other thing. Like these are books you can listen to and really enjoy. I've got a podcast called Turned On Wild, Free and
Do
Sexy
you?
in Your Midlife. Joanna's been a guest twice, and we talked about vaginal health and then HRT as a hot topic. And lots of different women have come on to talk about, yeah, our bodies. Like Rosie Rees has talked about yonis and squirting, and I've Kiki Marie, who's my coach, she talked about again the yoni. So we're like lots of like factual that we've been talking about, that women sharing their knowledge and expertise and experience equally like all the different ways you can be turned on in midlife or in life. Like it's relevant to everyone, but I'm just sort of focusing on women that I know in midlife. But that it might be cold water dipping, or it's your nutrition, or it's different modalities that can support you through your nervous system being regulated. So um ancestral healing. I've talked about all kinds of different things, being visible, human design, all sorts of different things. So you get to know yourself.
Mm.
Here's the thing, like you said, we're kind of in a new body. A lot of this stuff wasn't available to us. Now you're getting a bit more time, maybe, or there's a future that you're heading into where you
Yeah.
are a priority. And I think we always should have been, but now we're kind of being forced to
Yeah, I
be.
mean, I think we live in a modern world, right? So I'm very much a realist, and I think that it would be nice to we have this kind of utopia idea that it should be this way, but it's not, and it's not likely to be anytime soon. And so we have to operate within the parameters that we have available to us, which is that women's resources are pretty scarce. We're still doing like 70% of the heavy lifting around the house, and we're also in the workforce, and we've got kids and aging parents and so on. And so there's a lot of demands on us, which is why we sort of have talked throughout this masterclass about the fact that sex may not be something that you need to slot into the schedule 3 times a week, even though scheduling sex can actually help. We didn't talk about that, but knowing
I
that,
would also say in that what you were saying is my work is about being, how do I put pleasure into all those things?
correct.
How do I put pleasure into my work day, into my chores, into the things that I have to do for other people so that, I feel good in my body. So that would be, again, like if I have a beautiful scent that I like wearing, or I like wearing jewelry and I feel good. Like we often do that when we go to someone's party, we'll
Yeah.
dress up and feel good about ourselves. Why are we not doing that every day? Go shopping in a outfit that makes you feel fucking sexy. Why not? Like
Yeah.
it's how do we, and that's not taking away from the fact you need to do the shopping. Why not do like I listen to podcasts while I cook or shop, like because I go, cool, I feel like I'm getting something done for me while I'm doing this thing I don't really want to do. So it's wherever else you can carve in, weave in things that feel good for you, but you need to know what they are and you
Yeah.
need to go, oh, how do I do that? That
But
would
I
be a
think that's
tip.
really important because all those tasks, this is exactly what I'm talking about being realistic. All those tasks, that's your life, right? So by putting
Make it feel
off
good.
seeking pleasure or finding ways to make those tasks simultaneously pleasurable whilst you're fulfilling your responsibilities, by putting that off and just work, 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 and when I've got a spare minute, then I'll do something for me. It's never going to happen, babe. It's never going to happen. So as you say, start to bring
Yeah.
that in. And whether it's, I like big dangly earrings and they told me they weren't appropriate for work, but I'm going to wear them anyway. Like that sort
Yeah.
of, whatever it is,
Rebellion, why not?
bring it
I mean,
in.
you could have a, internal a yoni egg or a sex toy in while you're doing the cooking and no one needs to know. Like have
Don't
your
they
own
have
little
those like remote controlled sex toys as well? So you could be doing the shopping with your little remote control sex toy. But
exactly. I
can
guess there's
you can
all
you
kinds
say
of
the
ways.
name of your podcast once more? Because I accidentally spoke over you when you said that. So what's the name of your podcast?
It's called Turned On, Wild, Free, and Sexy in Your Midlife. It's on
Amazing. And I would
Spotify.
say, yeah, that is a fantastic resource. And it's something that you can start listening to all of Penny's episodes while you're driving or on the treadmill or in the shopping center, all of these things. So, look, Penny,
Watching the
thank you.
kids play sport, all the
Yeah,
things, the, yeah,
I would
enjoy.
say don't have your remote controlled sex toy while you're watching the kids play sport. But maybe.
I have listened to an erotic um book on Audible while my daughter was playing football, and I'm like, if these parents knew what I was listening to, oh my God.
What was the book? Because I've tried listening to erotic books and I didn't find any that appealed to me. What
It
was
was The Priest.
that is not the name that I thought it would
I
have.
know, which is quite he's a sexy priest. I mean, hello. Anyway, um yeah, that was quite good. I would highly recommend
And
that if you're
where
interested.
do you
There's a
recommend people go for literotica, as they call it?
Well, there's a it's not necessarily my area, but I do recommend if you kind of just want to taste and not necessarily buy anything and just feel into it. There's a podcast created by women called um something Calm, CUM. I'll have to look it up and send it to you so you've got it in your notes. But
Check the notes
it's
below.
it's like a 10 or 15-minute little story. I mean, they're not perfect, but
Yeah.
it's kind of a little bit fun.
Well, it's somewhere to
She,
start, as you say, without the investment of I bought this book and it's trash and I hate it.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
all right, amazing. Well, look, thanks, Penny. I'm going to just throw over you to, and it's spontaneous. I've put you on the spot here, but if there's one sort of big takeaway, what would you like to leave the people who have listened to this masterclass today with?
I would love them to know that they're not broken, that there's nothing wrong with them, that they do have a sexual energy in there, and it's about finding out what turns them on. So, looking and being okay with spending a little bit of time getting curious, asking questions, finding people that are having these conversations, following them, exploring with them, having role models. Like, I think that pleasure is okay, it's safe, it's normal, it's healthy. It is actually, I would say, the prescription to midlife. If you can walk a path of pleasure, you will be surprised at how much it pays off. It's the medicine that we all need, pleasure.
Agreed. Agreed. Thank you so much for your time and for dropping your wisdom bombs on us, Penny.
That's okay. I loved it. I love this conversation. And yeah, please come and check me out, not only on the podcast, but I have stuff on Instagram, Penny Vandersloot, and would love to sort of bring you into this conversation and make it normal. We're having a little pleasure revolution over
The
here.
pleasure revolution. You heard it here first.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
Penny.
Love the
Thank you.
conversation.
It was.